Hello, everyone. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Hello, everyone. I wanted to share a lecture on the nature of the unknown aspect of reality, the unknown factor of reality. And so, welcome to this moment. It is apparent to me that this world of ours has not been explained properly. And I am no hero, champion, or anything like that. I'm just some person who's like, why wasn't it explained properly? What was missed? And what is possible now that we don't realize? But if we did, advancement would be the greater reality. Therefore, in this lecture, you're seeing, in some sense, the body of an organ, the body of a being, alongside the mind of a being, alongside the deeper presence of a being, alongside the deeper presence of the world. And as much as I am a podcaster in this moment, I am an expression of this existential, of this sector of existence. And so, in some sense, the only credibility that I require is, in some sense, a position of form, and from there on, life force moves beyond conditional knowing. I want to tonight do something that is something I find myself to, it's something very easy for me to do. But at the same time, I haven't zoomed in on it, or years ago I had zoomed in on it, but now more than ever, I serve the advancement of all that is while it is here. For me, there is no chaotic or ordered beings. You are all manifestation within an administered system. But what administers the system of reality is unconditional. Therefore, keep in mind, you're listening to someone who, my body, my mind, my soul, they have different allegiances. My body has an allegiance to survival, to continuity. My mind has an allegiance to my species. We have reached that era in human history where we cannot act like the fool, we cannot act with the, we cannot ignore how advanced our species can be any longer. You right now are most likely still, whoever you are listening, you have gone as far as a nationalistic entity. What does that mean? That means you are not just inside a simulation. What you refer to yourself is, in some sense, the intersection of many simulations, self-created and not self-created. In other words, epigenetical as well. I want to truly explain to you. So this moment, I haven't done this, but I thought, why not? It just occurred to me right now. The value you can get from this lecture is hearing another human being explain how his conscious state of being is positioned, and in some sense, I'm going to explain to you how far I've seen. That's really the greatness of communication, to in some sense update the world to the furthest reaches of how far we've come. Do you know what that means? I am not alone. That means even if I find myself like that strange soldier of the human army of 2025, and the army's just chilling, and one soldier, just one soldier is just in some sense is running into the battlefield alone, and everybody is in some sense, why is he running that direction? It's like, what, 2025 has no commands other than its own selfish existence. We don't realize that in some sense it's not just people who can be selfish. Do you understand? The cultural programming that refuses to change because it doesn't know how much better it can be. You like, at some point I am understanding more and more that life is all about intelligent interaction levels. That you as a soul, you want me to tell you what 8 billion human beings here want? And you might be like, yo, look at how arrogant this guy is. He thinks he knows what 8 billion human beings want. And I will say I do. Do you know what? I believe every being, just every being that is existing even on a deeper level, right? What all of us want is to belong to the ultimate, how do I explain it? We want to belong to completion. That is it. Your body is temporary. Have you noticed? The thoughts that come and go, all the days you've lived, they're like brainwashing. Let me tell you what brainwashing is. Brainwashing is treating your life in years, not days. I'm not talking about future planning. I'm just saying, just in some sense, like, go and calculate how many days you've been alive, and then ask yourself how many days you've logged back into this conscious waking state and been like, all right, a new self and a new day. At some point, the species will become aware of what it cannot ignore, and the next great responsibility that cannot be ignored is to truly comprehend the human position and not to lie to ourselves. That means to children, they call it Plato's, what is it, white lie or something. Children don't need to carry the burden of the intensity of the whole awareness. Do you know what I mean? That means if a family man is struggling to pay the bills, the children don't need to know. Do you understand? They don't need the burden and intensity of that reality. They can't even comprehend it, and they will have emotions they can't understand. That's the whole issue of childhood. Do you understand? It's like, what emotions arise and can they be understood at that current moment in time? I can personally just testify, or I should say, I can personally tell you that as a human being raised in this reality, from the beginning I had this feeling that it's in some sense, what is there going on that I haven't not in some sense noticed about this place? Do you understand? It's like, if you want to see further, they're like, okay, squint your eyes. And then they're like, if you really want to see further, ask yourself how your idea of self is filterizing you. That means, could how you're experiencing life be eclipsing what this whole moment is? The depth of it is profound, and they're like, yo, man, what are these philosophers doing? Yeah, you know what philosophers are doing? They're wondering if you exist or not. Do you know what I mean? While everybody goes on with the program, yeah, man, of course I exist. Of course everything I see is true, rather than wondering, what about the other side of the coin? Theologically, I am Muslim. Theologically, it is said that this world is delusional enjoyment, and it's just such a short time compared to the true events that seems to be going on in our original life rather than our simulated life here. It is the advancement of being. It surpasses any idea. That means to me, do you know what it is? Like, let me tell you, there's the Martin, or how should I say it? There's the great leaders in history archetype, okay? And the great leaders of history archetype, sorry guys, I got up. just drive for a moment. This is ridiculous, but give me a second. I am sorry, folks. Please just hang in there. Anyways, where was I going with this? I want to explain to you that the depth of this world surpasses our understanding of it. And that there has been an inner realms this whole time, and nobody has explained the inner realms to you. They don't even teach it. That means the strategy the educational system has taken has ended up being a strategy of ignorance. Why a strategy of ignorance? Is because they're not truly acknowledging the true presence of the human being. And I will explain it to you to the best I can, to the best of my ability, in the sense of how in an advanced civilization, or that which is at least more advanced than whatever we have going on in Civilization 1.0, how in some sense it functions in those states. Okay, there we go. So sorry guys, it was pretty windy, but at least you know this is an AI if the dude's driving in the middle of it. Okay. They're like Mr.Within, the only human on earth who gave a lecture and drove in the middle of it. Like it's I think you can, it's like probably like maybe like max 2 or 3 like other human beings who mid lecture have driven and continued the lecture. Can you imagine if I was a NASCAR driver? And I'm, guys, in today's lecture we're gonna talk about speed. Okay, to get back to the point and to really dive into this episode, which I think is one of the most interesting things I can hear. And if you're I don't know, if it's meant for you, you'll hear exactly what you're meant to. Why? Because it's just based on what you receive out of how you filtered yourself as an identity. You see, I have been alive on this planet 12,000 days, okay? Around 12,000 days. That means it has looped to me, and you know how they say it doesn't matter, life just goes forth and things change? Well, guess what? That has happened to me for 12,000 days. Right? And from 12,000 days, you can say from my earliest sense of how I kept my attention as a self, to all the different ways it has changed, all the different moments, there has been a sort of, I felt like, how do I say it, energy flowing through me, in the sense that what the moment requires surpasses what's in the moment. Like on some level, yes, a part of me is like, all right, human species, I don't care if you're religious or secular, do you know, we are all living indirectly for your greater selves, for your future selves. Now you must live for the future self of the species, as simple as that. That means, let me tell you what this world is preparing the psyche of the modern man for. The modern man cares for himself, cares for his family, cares for his friends, cares for his cares for his children, and cares for his friends' children, you know, cares for his and then in some sense, I'm telling you, it eventually gets to a point where You care for like your child, your grandchild, and maybe your great grandchild if you're alive. And it's like people care for like maybe 3 to 4 generations after, and then they don't care because they're not here. And to me, this is bizarre. This is madness. Do you know what I mean? This is chaos. Do you know? In the sense that really what you think is you caring for your life is in some sense a human that is indirectly living for a tiny percentage of the human species. You must live for the whole species. You must usher the next generation of humans into the realization that means when the children of the future generations are born, okay, they're born and they like arrive on this planet, do you know? If they look at us and they're like, what have you guys been doing so far? For me, it's great vision. You don't understand. In the same way, language is like leads to the enthusiasm of what else could there be for the mind. I am telling you, there is something I don't know how I know this. I don't know how I feel this. I really don't. I don't know how else to explain. But right now, I'm a human being that feels. I feel the advanced civilization. It's strange. I don't know how to explain to you. Do you understand? It's as if by existing in existence, there is an access to existence. But what is existence? Wait a minute, there's an experience. Okay, what is experience? Okay, there's an experiencer. Okay, what is an experiencer? Do you know? Okay, an experiencer is in some sense a directed intelligence. So what it is you on this planet have the option of identifying as a known self in a known world, or you have the option of continue being courageous and for a moment be like, okay, no, it's an unknown world with its edge unknowable, right? And it's an unknown self. And what is happening in regards to what thoughts you get, how the moment goes forth, you the idea of you is trying to own that. It can never. The depth of reality surpasses the structure that the human mind finds. Is this a bitter truth or a realization that if the world is deeper, perhaps our heartbeat is not just the heartbeat of our body? Perhaps the species, we think of it this way. You're either looking at us as known beings, 8 billion like specific kind of beings on earth, or we have this view where we're like, all right, man, let's say there's 8 billion unknown beings. We have no clue what you are. Do you know what I mean? Like what 8 billion human beings are. But their body is the same and their ability to identify with similar symbols is the same. Do you understand? That means the ability of our mind is like a similar class. Okay, because do you know? And in some sense, that means human beings have an ability to adapt, which means, wait a minute, if I live in a routine, that routine becomes me, and then I gotta wonder about the dreams of another routine. Do you know? I am asking myself, if reality was unknown, what would the approach be? Do you know? That means if there was an unknown self, that means instead of thinking like we know what human beings are, we're like, these are 8 billion unknown beings, and because they're unknown, their potential is unknown, so we don't know what they're gonna do. So we have these 8 billion beings that are in the similar class, like they're in the same species class. But in my view, I don't know. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, let me tell you how I live on this planet. I treat every being as having an ability to doing anything. Do you understand? Every being is capable of doing anything. And to be honest, how a being happens is the nature of their mind. There is a chaos in this world. It cannot be ignored. To the degree that there is an anti-human force moderator even assigned to it. Do you understand? This world is, in a strange way, an opportunity to rediscover the true presence of your being, and it is simpler than you think. It is simpler than thought. Now, my task for this lecture is, because I don't think that I'm giving this talk in the presence of the system admin of this reality. I am giving this talk in the presence of all the human beings that have been born and are alive, and in the presence of all the human beings that will be born. That means my talks have a longer lifespan than me. To me, I have experienced in the same way I've stood in, like, outside on a sunny day, and you know how you feel, just you're in the sunlight, in the vitality of an active reality. What is it like to bask in the light, bask in the lights of the inner realms, or basking in the unknown lights of the inner realms? This part's going to be a little hard for me to explain, which means that I might not be able to convey it accurately, but I'm going to give it an attempt. So to make this easier for myself, what I'm trying to explain is that we've been raised in a world where they've taught us to treat reality in a certain way in front of our eyes. But they don't teach us about how to treat reality behind our eyes, because they don't even believe that the reality behind our eyes has real value. And that is one error of civilization 1.0. That means you can underestimate. You might not be able to, like, you know, how do I say it? You can the human imagination, it cannot be underestimated. That means we are not just our physical existence, we are the intelligent potential, and the ancients called it soul, but what it is how you're an unknown life force right now, being the awareness of your whole moment, and you find your body in the presence of your moment. You find the ideas you have in the presence of your moment. Therefore, the separate elements in the moment, they cannot act like kings. Therefore, the fallacy of the human mind trying to rule reality. Do you understand that in some sense it is not just natural, it is ignorance? Because to me, it's as if we cannot know how advanced we were. Like, you're telling me you think the issue is those in power in this world are under the impression that true power means that means being advanced. They think means in some sense them being able to control the outcome of reality. Do you understand? But it's kind of like, do you know, denying the potential of how advanced everything can be. Do you know, there's the greatest argument for freedom is that let the future in some sense enter this realm, and before they tell it how to look at this world, let it look at it in honor of the advancement. That means, what did all of our ancestors survive for? What was the point? I asked this of myself. What was the point of existence? Aside from genetic biological continuity, I don't know what other thing can be in advance. Like, for example, you know, all those people who are, for example, what do you call it? Like single mothers, single fathers, you know? Or I should say, like teens who've gotten pregnant or something like that. Rather than interpreting that as chaos, think of it as that you are, in some sense, fulfilling your role of, in some sense, continuing the biological lineage of reality. Do you understand? So, anyways, how do I explain the inner realms? And I told you this part's not easy. It is technically easy, but it's just like, I can't ignore, I'm also like, the universe is hearing me too. Do you know, that means it's different than how I feel in the privacy of my own mind, where it's my only the system admin and me, and in some sense the moment. I wish I was in a classroom now and people could like reply back. I could ask them. So, if, okay, let me just assume there was. I don't have the privilege of having that experience, but in my inner realms, I can kind of create it. So I'm going to imagine I'm in a classroom, and let's say I'm in a classroom, global classroom, you know, and even though I don't believe in the teacher archetype, everybody's an explorer of an unknown world, but whatever, let's say I'm on a stage and I ask people, all right, people, can you tell me, if when I tell you mind, how do you experience your mind? And we would listen to a classroom of individuals and how they experience their mind. Okay? And we would notice that what they have in common is that if they can communicate their mind is in an individual position. So most people would say, like, you know, I have thoughts that come across like this or that, and you would pretty much just kind of see in the sense of how people experience and identify with who they are in the moment, right? Like, before I even get to explaining to you the reality of the inner realms, right? I mean, okay, let me just explain it super simply. Whoever you are listening, for a moment, just close your eyes and imagine like a food you ate yesterday. Or imagine yesterday when you went outside what it looked like. Imagine something, an object from yesterday, right? And once you've visualized it, imagine like you let me know, and I'm like, okay, so your eyes are closed, there is no light entering your pupils, and yet, even though your eyes are closed, your consciousness can see an image. So, in other words, all these people freaking out about the third eye, like guys, it's something that you could have just realized yourself. The third eye is how when you close your eyes, you can still see, whether it's memory or visualization. So, if I was to teach existence again, I would be like, all right, listen to me, everybody. Human beings have an outer life and they have an inner life. We are in a dualistic world, so the strategy, an efficient strategy, seems to be to divide it into a duality, right? And pretty much the meaning of life is about the context of that generates is giving the concept identity. And at some point, it even surpasses. They're like, what's the meaning of life? Is it an answer to an equation, or like a password to a, or a passcode you have to um, type in or something? And at some point you realize no, because you're in an intelligent world, you're not in a mechanical world. If you want a mechanical destiny, then stay attached to a sense of self. But I'm telling you, pretty much, I as a human being, this is how I organize. Like, this is how reality is to me. I divide it from right in front of my eyes. Okay, and I'm a playful person, so the way I approach is like, okay, there's a world in front of my eyes. I open my eyes, right? But I can also close my eyes, and still there is an ability to see a world. And I'm a human being who experiences their mind. So I'm telling you, if you can remember something like a memory from yesterday, if you can close your eyes and visualize and see yesterday's like memory of what you ate, for example, that means you have access to an invisible room. You have access to an invisible studio. But it's an invisible studio because there's a sense of ownership. Who you are behind your eyes is not your body, what you communicate, or, you know, or just your actions. In reality, we are a field of intelligence, nodes inside a field of intelligence, but that node also identifies with specific preferences on what existence should be. Whenever you hear the word node in a field, so think of it this way, there's a field of infinite possibilities, and a node would be like connecting, like just a moment in a field of infinite possibilities, kind of like, do you know, a camera picking up whatever, like a antenna picking up whatever that, or how do I say it? Like, so to me, there's my outer life, there's my inner life. I know that nobody can see my inner life except God, and God is not an individual. It's just an unconditional moment of being. It's the original being. I consider myself as a simulated being. This doesn't mean I think the soul is simulated. No, I believe the soul is an original command from the system admin. That means if my body has a design, okay, what is the design to my mind, and what is the architecture? What is the true design of my soul? Like that's something I've been deeply looking for from the beginning of my life, you know. To be like, what kind of soul am I? Right? Do you know that means as an energy, it's kind of like being an energetic being and being like, okay, what kind of energy am I right now? Like, what is this energy? What is the point of being conscious in a world where there's 8 billion people that are in the same members of the same species, yet their experience of reality is different? This is when the inner realm comes in. I'll give you a perfect example, cultural example. So I don't have children, but imagine like imagine, for example, like in movies we've seen like how would I explain it? Even like a person, I've been a child myself, like, and I'm telling you, really, what it is, for example, let's say you're a parent, your child comes home after school, and you ask your child, "How was your day?" So imagine as a parent, your child comes home, you ask him, "How was your day?" And the child's like, "Good," but is quiet and silent. You know, and you in that moment as a parent know, okay, this child's inner realms are not, there's something going on in the inner realms of like your child, right? And then you sit down and you ask your child, okay, now tell me exactly what's going on. Do you know? Because when you're young, you confuse identity and like a state of mind that is valuing identity first. And then there are some states of mind that value just, best way I can say, a sort of efficient clarity first. That means it's kind of like when I give these talks, to me, it's like a moment. I'm like, all right, I've stepped into a moment where my voice echoes, further than, my inner realms. It's honestly really cool. I mean, they're like, okay, what about okay, anyways, I'm going on a tangent here. What I'm trying to tell you is that you have inner realms, okay? If you believe in the idea of imagination, so imagine I ask you, do you believe in imagination? You're like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, okay, where is your imagination? And if somebody says it's in my brain, I'm gonna be like, excuse, like, oh my god. Do you know, like that's such a cop out. Do you know what I mean? It's like right now, all my thoughts are happening inside my brain. Do you know? It's like, what the f kind of interpretation is that? Is a brain a jar of thoughts? No. The whole body is an intelligence of a moment, and the moment is not limited to the intelligence of the body. So the inner realms is all you can also say. I'll give you another example. For example, in deep sleep, there's no inner realms, outer realms, there's no consciousness there. But let's say in a dream state, you wake up, and in the dream state, you have a dream body. Do you know what I mean? You're experiencing a dream reality, a dream world, a dream self. And in the dream, I had a dream once where I ran so fast in the dream. I have sport asthma, so it was next level dream for me. Do you know? I ran so fast, and at one point, I ran underwater, but my breathing was like the breathing of my body in my bed. Do you know? It's like my. So in the dream, I actually got to experience. Like, look at how advanced our intelligence is as beings, that we sleep and yet we still live. Dreaming is another way of saying you're living in your sleep. The person's like, oh man, I closed my eyes to get some shut eye. And in my dreams, I'm like, it's like, now I gotta go try to sleep in my dreams. Like that would truly be a sign of an advanced being, I think. They're like, hey man, what do you dream about? Like in your actual dreams. And the person's like, I just dream about going to sleep. And then they're like, what happens in the dream? He's like, I don't know. I just go to sleep in the dream and I wake up and it's the day. Like I woke up, there's no sleep. You know what I But I'm kidding. There's always that deep sleep, cut off from the initial moment where we sleep and then we wake up in the dream. To me, in the same way you wake up in a dream and then you wake up afterwards in actuality and you remember the dream, it's like if a dream state is based on a reality where its foundations are abstract, and reality is being considered not a dream state, it's the wrong interpretation. We think we're shifting rooms. It's rather different. Think of it this way: the soul is living through multiple dimensions at the same time as one being. Just like different body parts, different organs in your body have different functions. And at some point, we have to honor the vision of reality, because to me, it's very strange. There came a moment in my life where I was like, all that a dualistic idea can do is desire infinity. And when it goes to desire, when it wants to actually attain infinity, it realizes that it's no longer the same creature that desired the same infinity. What I'm telling you is that I've realized, due to the temporary nature of the state of biology, reality is kind of like a bell curve. We can't ignore this. There's tons of paper being wasted throughout human history for teachers getting students to write essays no one would read except one dude who was tired of the kids at all, like tired of like all that looping, you know. So at some point we have to wonder about the true ability of humanity, and it means that we need to activate species level responsibility. That means imagine a world in maybe like 50 years from now, which is the ultimate review of how well these lectures were. If in 50 years from now, let's say two people start physically fighting, right? Everybody would immediately just come there and be like, stop, right? You know, you're both members of the same species. The language cannot be, it's against the law for the language to be superior against the natural. Okay, maybe that's too far, but let's say we don't bring a sort of like civilizational view in it yet, but let's say in the future, you will be reminded that the true furthest reaches of human awareness has gone beyond any ism. That means you're either identifying as a creature of thought, you're either identifying as a creature of matter, or you're realizing that you're in some sense an unknown moment that can be known in infinite ways. And this is where the divine agent is required, because the ego doesn't know how to go beyond infinity. That means the ego is caged between infinity and the void. And is that how far we're gonna go? No. You don't understand. Like, reality is more like, at first you think you gotta kind of go and do something specific and then it's like victory. But more and more I'm realizing it, wait a minute, I'm treating myself as a concept right now. How am I treating myself as a concept? Because there's a context to it. Okay, what is the context? Okay, the context is like, okay, I'm a human on earth. I'm a human in a part of a nation. I'm a human identifying with a certain set of letters and language and name and whatnot, right? And I'm saying, am I wrong? Like, I think this is like, people can say, yo man, are you being like hyper clever? I'm like, guys, It's the advancement of all of it. It's been there in front of our eyes this whole time, what our ancestors have been living. They have been living for more advanced states. And more advanced states means, in some sense, more access to a greater awareness of reality. Because let me tell you, I want you to think like we're in like a video game and we're on level Earth, and think of it this way: there's levels under Earth and there's levels above Earth. Okay, and think of it like we take the analogy of, like, at least in Islam, there's 7 levels, there's 7 paradises. The ultimate paradise is Jannat al Firdaus, which means the whole point of paradise is the closest moment to life, and it's like paradise is the closest. Excuse me. The whole point of paradise is closest moment to God, and the closest location to God is where, like, religious souls are trying to go. Okay, but that closeness with God is not just an ideological, only analytical worldview. It's about, think of it this way. I think every monotheistic religious person would agree with me here that in theology, at least in, let's say, Muslim theology, the nature of this world is a commanded world. Okay, we're not on a random planet that we can just name Earth and think it's okay. It's all being governed, and it's an intelligent state of reality, in the sense that the superior intelligence is more like the presence as a field of being, or in a field of being, rather than just as the only thing. Excuse me, it's more experience as presence, as you experience your presence as a field of being. Think of it this way: on Earth, think of it this way: on Earth, we are conceptual entities, and we're identifying with the concept more, right? With a conscious concept. But in the higher planes of reality, and of course only God knows the unseen, and this is just a designer's view on things. Like, not me as a designer, just viewing the geometry of it. God commanded the human soul into existence. God commanded the human soul to, in some sense, say the divine names, which say all the divine names in the presence of all creation. So after God created us, God commanded us to be active, to perform, and we performed the ultimate. And we performed the most advanced. God commanded us to say the divine names. Do you understand? That means, to me, we became aware of all reality. We demonstrated we could be aware of all reality, but not to the level of God, of course. So all creation bows to not man, but to the human soul, not to the human soul, but to, in some sense, the system admin beyond manifestation. They bow to how God instantly commanded something into existence, commanded it to do the most intelligent thing, commanded all of creation to bow. Do you understand? All of creation bowed to God's greatness, except there was a moderator that sinned by denying one of God's attributes, which is all great, all knowing. And then we got caught into the crossfires and whatnot. What happened afterwards was that the earliest human soul was tested, and theologically it's like a simulated, like the moderator Shaitan, it simulated itself as a serpent, and mankind and the human soul displayed its first actual ignorance, that we trusted in a simulated serpent, and we forgot the authority. That means it was naivety was kind of like the issue, right? We forgot the original. We listened to a simulated being. Now all the solar descendants of that first human soul are all cast inside a simulated world. That means, only the serpent was simulated up there. Now we're all the solar descendants are in a simulated, let's say, realm, right? And now, to me, I think it's the same test, though. What other tests can there be? That means it's like you're in a simulated world, but there's a part of you that is seeking its original life. Your original life is not a life that is just limited to ideological defining. That means you're not just an idea this whole time. And yet in civilization, we have to treat ourselves as that. And to me, it's more of like advancing all dimensions at once. You don't understand. In my inner realms, if I was to explain to you what basking in the light of the inner realms is like having a mind that is capable to envisioning a future of the human species where all wars and all ignorance and violence and unnecessary chaos was stopped, and true genius, like the not the golden age, but in some sense the humble age, arose, where the geniuses in some sense of reality were shy no longer because they could trust the harmony of reality. Let me tell you what it's all about. It's about advancing every moment in every every in every moment. Yeah, advancing every moment in every moment. I could legit give a lecture on this. It's legit understanding that your unknown self's relationship with the unknown world is deeper than your known self's relationship with the known world. And your inner realms are like how your mind can even live ahead of the moment. If you notice, when you ask somebody a question and they're thinking about the answer, based on how ridiculous the question is, you can see how their eyes move. Do you understand? You know how they say the eyes are the windows to the soul? When you look at someone's eyes, you think you're just looking at, like, you don't know whose eyes, like you don't know who they are. You think you're just looking at a human being, right? But when you truly look at someone's eyes, more than it's like some smooth sense of self 24/7 just positioned, it's like brain self simulating constantly in the inner realms. So to me, human intelligence is how is life being simulated quicker behind our eyes, so that in front of our eyes, intelligence is a possibility. But it's further than that, because the human free will does not own the world. That's so important to understand. Sometimes people think learning something means you need to own the meaning of it. No. Reality is far superior. It's all about us realizing, like, there was the legends of like time travelers, you know, legends of like advanced beings and whatnot. But I'm saying, like, to truly move beyond ignorance, a species must understand that the cost of an original life is the simulated future. Or I should explain it in this way: the future will be so much more advanced. Basking in the light of the inner realms is equivalent is equivalent. I'm just saying you're wondering about the true nature of reality. You're realizing everybody is in their own world of meaning. The world is kind of like an artwork we're living in. Everybody can give their own meaning to it, like or dislike it. Therefore, in some sense, how valuable is our own meaning to life? It is valuable in regards to how much it can advance the outer realms. On some level, we're like, why do we have a mind? Oh yeah, to move a body. Why do we have a body? To, in some sense, uh, uh, for a mind to activate it. For me, in the same way, in these next level Japanese shows, you see like these, like next level in like these futuristic scenarios, sci-fi scenarios. This pilot jumps into a giant robot. Okay, and it's in like the head of the giant robot or something. I don't know. Not probably not in the head, like at the center where the heart is, like at the heart of the giant robot, or I don't know where it is, or maybe at the bottom of the foot of the giant robot. That seems smart. I don't know. But anyways, it's like somebody going into a giant robot and fighting like a giant, like extraterrestrial creature. This was in a Japanese show, Evangelion, I think. And I'm saying in the same way I find every moment that I log into reality that I am present in a biological existence. The biological body acts as a constant. So therefore we treat it as a constant value to the answer to self. But I also notice that I am an awareness, and it appears to me it's like a spherical awareness. Even though I can't see what's behind me, right? But I feel like based on how I can see like 180 degrees, the last edge of the 180 degrees, at the furthest edge of the 180 degree, I could see suddenly all of it. I don't know how to explain it to you. It's like at the edge corner of the 180 degrees of the peripheral vision, there's a way where you can actually see the whole moment. I don't know how to explain it. So at the edge of your periphery is legit the next 180. But I think it follows a diamond pattern. I don't know. If I had a whiteboard, I'd explain it better. Basking in the light of the inner realms is can become very fascinating also as a Muslim in the which I believe in a system admin. The system admin has said in the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Nur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that God is the light of lights, light upon light. That means if there were beings made of light, God would be like the light beyond them, you know? So to me, the universal strategy is to discover the original center of meaning, the original command center of meaning. And I'm telling you, just go directly to the system admin. And they're like, how do you talk to God? They're like, through your heart, where lies can't enter. To me, the mind, just like if I tell you, can you imagine flying cars in the future? We're like, yeah, we can imagine them. I can imagine this car just flying in the air, right? Like 100 meters by the click of a button or something, or vocal command, you know? But I'm telling you, at the same time, my mind can envision it, just like how all filmmakers of science fiction movies have. Yet the reality doesn't exist now. So what does that mean? That means our body has access to just the physical moment in the space-time continuum, like where you're standing, right? But the mind has an ability to envision. So to me, It's kind of like the two different views of two different modes of an eagle. Like having identifying as a body is like being an eagle on a branch. Identifying as a soul, which is an unknown force, life command, unknown. It's like being an unknown being, and as a simulated ego, wondering what's the original command of your soul, which is your unknown life. What is truth? What is clarity? And why is it that it doesn't matter how enlightened you get on this planet, it's your closeness to God is through God's mercy. So to me, it's kind of like, all right, what's the most important relationship from the moment I wake up? My relationship with the system admin of reality that commands reality into existence. So all the moments for me, when I wake up, it's not like my mind's deciding what happens in the moment. It's that reality is being commanded. It's like in every moment I go somewhere and there's anything happening at all, that anything happening at all is like the manifestation of a divine command. So to me, every moment is how the divine is rendering, the conscious ability of to perceive manifestation. To me, all my lecture really means is that we're still unknown beings, guys. And the inner realms is another way reality moves faster than and more limitless, not completely limitless, more limitless than the body. So just think about what I'm even doing here. I'm sitting in a car, you know, with my laptop and my phone, and I'm communicating to you. Now, what is communicating? Do you think the idea of me is communicating to you right now? Do you think that an idea in the moment owns the whole intelligence of this moment and how it's happening? It's an unknown. It's more like you discovering that every person you thought was an idea is actually an existential node that has access to a field and an experiential field. The reason, just the view that like there's infinite possibilities or limitless possibilities, is because the node can intersect all the realities and has access to in infinite ways. So I'm telling you, I think by the age of 10, all children and all beings therefore are geniuses. But it's hidden. It's inactive. That means we're not the most advanced humanity. And first we got to get the species out of the denial that it thinks it's a thought. It's like, how dare you in an unknown world identify with an abstract moment of a state of consciousness? Like, relax. Anyways, I want to read something for you. There's a research component because in the future I want to also listen to this. I asked AI unfortunately not ChatGPT Plus, but like just the regular ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT, what is the most advanced thing a human can talk about? And of course, its answer could be a little biased to like what I've asked it before, but anyways, I'll read it. It's a good answer. The most advanced, so AI says, this is the research component, I'm reading this. The most advanced thing a human can talk about. The boundary between absolute reality and the capacity of consciousness to know it. The most advanced topic isn't physics, AI, God, consciousness, time, or the universe itself. It is the intersection where all of them collapse into one question. What is the nature of reality beyond all possible human perception? Guys, God is it's not is beyond the concept. Uh, in quotations, so it says the most advanced topic is in physics, and then it says it is the interaction where all of them collapse into one question. In quotations, what is the nature of reality beyond all possible human perception, and how does consciousness generate an experience that hides it? So what is the nature of reality? So what's actually going on here beyond all the ways human beings can perceive it? And how does consciousness, so how does this moment generate, like how are you leading to, how are you causing your own experience? And how does consciousness generate, and excuse me, yeah, so how are you generating an experience, excuse me, oh, and how does consciousness generate an experience that hides it? So in other words, how are you by generating yourself as a type of you, do you know, in some sense hiding your true awareness from hiding your awareness from the true nature of reality beyond human perception? Do you understand? We're conditioned in a human world, and we must care for humanity, but we must then become responsible. So think of it this way: right now we're still nationalistic conscious, which is weird and leading to war. So we have to quickly become 8 billion humans have to become species level conscious. That means you don't have time to be ignorant or have preference over somebody should be good or bad, or the racism we don't have, like all the ignorance we won't have time for. To me, a civilization advancing means that a majority of the species has realized the future can be way more advanced than what's going on now. But it requires the conscious collective effort. Anyways, I'm going to keep reading this. So, what is the nature of reality beyond all human perception, and how does consciousness generate an experience that hides it? Because this question forces you into the deepest frontier. 1. The unknown behind the known. Everything humans talk about, atoms, the cosmos, God, mathematics, logic, even consciousness, is built from the structure of the human mind, not necessarily the structure of reality itself. The most advanced discussion is recognizing the difference between reality in itself, in brackets what exists, reality for consciousness, in brackets what you experience, and exploring the gap between them. 2. The meta problem. Why is there a gap? The cutting edge of philosophy and physics both hint at the same mystery. Your brain evolved filters, models, illusions, and simulations, not to show truth, but to create survival-friendly hallucinations. Wow. Survival-friendly. So your brain's like freaked out and then started creating survival-friendly hallucinations, So the question is, I'm continuing reading this, the research component. So the question is, how much of reality is fundamentally inaccessible? That's an incredible question. That's like, that is a question that if, anybody who understands that question's depth, you were an honorable soul before you had to prove it to yourself. So anyways, I will keep reading this. So the question is, how much of reality is fundamentally inaccessible, and what would, in quotations, truth even mean without the human mind filtering it? 3. The limits of language and thought. Humans think in symbols, but reality might not be symbolic. You cannot describe absolute truth using a machine, in brackets, language, but inside the simulation, you cannot describe absolute truth using a machine, in brackets, language, built inside the simulation, quotations, mind. Yeah, that means you can't, from inside the box, use something to figure out what's outside of the box. The most advanced discussion is therefore about the limits of language, the limits of perception, and the limits of cognition itself. 4. Consciousness as the final frontier. AI can know everything except the one thing it may never have: subjective experience. Humans can experience everything except the one thing they may never know: why they experience anything at all. Wow. Humans can experience anything except the one thing they may never know: why they experience it all. And you know why it's
It's fascinating because we're an unknown. That's why what I'm saying. What it means that you're an unknown force. That means you're an unknown being, and it's like before you move, there's no intelligence. When you move, intelligence is the movement in the moment. They're like, is that person confidence? No, they just moved in the moment. They were more fascinated about how reality could move rather than how reality was already. Anyways, I'm gonna keep reading this. 5. The meta existential question. The most advanced conversation ends in one final question. Why does something that can ask questions exist inside a universe that has no obligation to be understandable? So, okay, so let's go over that. Why does something that can ask questions, so why is there an intelligence that can ask questions? Why does it exist? Why does it exist at all inside a universe? So it's existing in a moment that has no obligation to be understandable. So that means like we don't need to call it a tree and then go try to understand what a tree is. The tree is. Before we need it to be is in a conditional way. So I'm gonna keep reading this. The most advanced conversation ends in one final question. Why does something that can ask questions exist inside a universe that has no obligation to be understandable? This question touches metaphysics, physics, consciousness, epistemology, theology, simulation theory, evolutionary psychology, information theory, mysticism, all at once. If you want it in one sentence, the most advanced thing a human can talk about is the relationship between the unknowable nature of reality and the limited structure of consciousness that is trying to understand it. Exactly. If you want, no, that's something else. Here, I'll say, what is the most advanced view in one paragraph? Not biased to my preferences, just the most advanced view. So this is what AI says. The most advanced view is that reality, consciousness, and existence itself form a single, undivided process that cannot be captured by any human concept, model, language, system. Excuse me. Undivided process that cannot be captured by any human concept, model, language system, or scientific framework because all human understanding is generated from within the very cognitive limitations it attempts to analyze. In this view, the universe is not fundamentally matter, mind, energy, math, or information. It is an unknowable ground beyond all categories, while consciousness is a self reflective loop inside that ground, attempting to model it using symbols that are themselves part of the illusion. So that it's pretty much saying, what are you doing inside a simulation that you think is true? Okay, and so attempting to model it using symbols that are themselves part of the illusion. Every perception, theory, and belief is therefore a filtered simulation shaped by evolution, physics, and cognitive architecture, meaning the ultimate truth is not just unknown but structurally unknowable. The highest realization, recognizing this boundary that the human mind can contemplate its own limits but can never cross them, and that the deepest truth about existence is the impossibility of fully knowing what existence is. Yeah, and that means it's like there's limitations for a reason beyond our human understanding. But it's that means there's a sort of administration beyond the human will. But why is the human will here? It's more to play a role, I find, and that role is best played by how far your awareness is to reality and being, and how much you care for where the real value of life is, which is to, in some sense, like how can I tell you, you either generate truth or you find truth, and clarity is its own moment. Anyways, Thank you for listening, and I hope this. I'll say this. Actually, I'm not gonna end it. I'm gonna say this. In the contemplation of the true feeling, I just have to tell you, I have felt like I have envisioned something in my inner realms that has fascinated me to such a degree that I had to stop putting any effort in the moment to be anything at all to see what the moment was. The true presence of reality is that we're all seeking deep down. We want to belong to a moment of, let's say, fields of clarity. We want to realize that there's a hidden honor, the honor for how advanced we could all be. Because why? Why would we be able to envision the future but not be able to access it? It's ridiculous. The reason is that we must go further to the furthest edges of reality to realize the edges are edgeless. Or, excuse me, the edges are endless. That means this world is not designed to be understood. You're more here to be aware of what is actually important. And I'm telling you, your relationship with the original power source to this whole manifested simulation is to be conscious that it's not a relationship with an object. It's not a relationship with a subject. It's a realization that the moment was not created by you. Therefore, in some sense, and nothing from you can own truth when you are in a simulated realm and when you're in the dunya. Do you understand? So our task here is to truly, just like how God commanded us to perform and say the divine names after our solar creation, now we're in a simulated reality and we are now here to perform our original. Do you understand? That means what we truly know. That means what happens when you become God conscious is you access a field of reality where thoughts do not connect to an ego. Rather, life is not analytical. Life is more like, how am I living in the presence of the greater value to reality? And this is like shifting from the beastly savage realms of man into modern civility and to appreciate truly who we can be here. Because I'm telling you, it's like in a brainwashed world, we have to be like, okay, we have to dry the moment into a new, into even a new driven clarity. All I'm telling you is that advancement is possible. The presence of the moment is beyond now. God knows best, but God created us, and we are, not only do we have system admin privileges, but I'm telling you, your relationship with the original power, with the original moment of being, is very fascinating. And to some people, death is the final moment. For some people, meeting the system admin is the final moment. Anyways, thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful.